a great queen. I have 4 wins. It feels correct. Don't break my heart, just break my back.
It was coming out of like left field because
It was more so just from.
So you want to do this right now?
Yeah,
So
I'll
let's
do it,
fucking
baby.
do
I'll
this.
do it.
Let's
Hi, girl.
Hey y'all, it's Renegade, and it's time to spill more Reali-Tea in another Reali-Tea retrospective. As always, this series will take a deep dive at some of the most popular shows that have finished here in 2024. We'll start with my spoiler-free review to give anyone who hasn't seen the show a taste of just what you're in for. Then we'll get into an episode-by-episode review of the most needed to be talked about moments. So let's get some discussion going in the comments below, y'all. In today's recap, we take a look back on all the charisma, uniqueness, nerve, and talent in the latest entry in the US Drag Race franchise that proves giving the power back to the queens will lead to a historic season. Let me welcome you all to RuPaul's Drag Race Season 16. Starting out each and every year with a new season of RuPaul's Drag Race has become my favorite way to begin the new year, as it feels like the show has really started to set the tone for how the franchise is going to vibe going into 2024. If a season is successful, then its goops, gags, loops, and drama will live forever in the fandom memes for years to come, but the exact opposite effect could be present if the season is just lackluster. While the post-pandemic seasons have each had their share of issues, with season 13 and 14 relying too heavily on production twists, while season 15 was a fantastic season that was hindered by the decision to cut the episodes back to the original 60-minute runtime. So, something about season 16 felt like it really had something to prove as MTV took their second chance at attempting to keep the series fresh while also staying true to form as it returned to its new 90-minute episodes. Did the decision to give the power back to the queens make for a better season? Well, let's find out in my spoiler-free review. At this point, this is my 4th Drag Race video already this year, so to go over the format at this point seems like beating a dead horse. But I do think the season felt most well-planned from a production standpoint than in seasons past, whereas seasons 13 and 14 really felt like it struggled to find a way to extend the episode runtime in a meaningful way without dragging things out. They course-corrected completely in season 15 by blowing up the cast so they could do an elimination every single episode, which had its own faults as the shorter runtime already limited our ability to get to know the queens. But everything about season 16 felt like a true return to form for the series, as the 90-minute episodes returned, along with the initial double non-elimination premiere. To take things up a notch, production instituted immunity for the first time in years in a fun way that made it less like the rigged golden chocolate bar and more like a hidden immunity idol that we would see an intuitive player use themselves to save themselves on a season of Survivor. Along with the Rated Queen twist, which allows the queens to judge themselves in the first few episodes, we really see production give the power back to the queens to allow them to make the decisions. Much like Canada's Golden Beaver, twists such as these really increase the drama and tension in a much more natural fashion, as they are much more fair because it's the queens who are deciding the outcomes, not production. We also see the return of the final 3 finale for the first time since season 12, as well as the exchange of a reunion or lip-sync Smackdown between the eliminated queens. There's just so many good decisions made here that really make me excited for the future of the Drag Race mainland franchise as we head officially into the MTV era. So, for all these positives, this season's format absolutely scores an A. Now, when I say how this season felt like a true return to form, this season's cast really gave shades of the old seasons of Drag Race. Very nostalgic, because they came here to slay, but they also came to slay each other. I've gotta say, each and every girl feels like, for the most part, they do have a moment to shine throughout the season, with, some obviously more than others. The fact we were able to spend so much time with a lot of the early outs was quite a change of pace, and there is a general air of unpredictability as it feels like anyone can get eliminated at any time. And trust me, there are some very shocking eliminations this season that really up the stakes. Despite all of this could quite possibly yield one of the strongest final 3s I have seen in the history of this franchise, as well as multiple queens with all-star arcs completely set up for them when their inevitable return to the franchise is coming in the next few years. This cast just seemed unapologetic, and they are not afraid to read each other as we get some of the best drama we've seen in recent years on the mainline franchise. There is a level of synergy from this cast, and it's just so much fun to watch, and I really think they will all find massive success in the future. So for that, they will definitely earn an A. So y'all already know how I feel about Drag Race editing. So how was the editing of season 16? Honestly, I wasn't mad at it. There was an over-reliance on some characters in the confessionals. It seemed like a few of the queens were only brought up when they absolutely had to be, while other queens would always get to comment. But I get it, some queens are just better narrators than others, so it happens. Sometimes this unevenness in the editing can be generally unsatisfying, so there was a moment where the endgame seems like a foregone conclusion at one point here, and I was getting a little worried, but I've got to say, this season does a very good job of subverting some expectations here and there, and I'm personally very satisfied with the story presented here to us since it yields a fantastic result. So, in comparisons of other Drag Race seasons, I'll definitely give them another A here. I've got to say, Drag Race seasons of 2024 have been mostly bringing it, and there's going to be a huge battle at the end of this year attempting to rank them all. But given everything I've talked about so far, it's possible that season 16 could be the best of the best here. Like, they all ate, they left no crumbs, they came back, and they ate again. Like, this was just a very, very fun season from start to finish, and I really hope this season shows that production can kind of step away and make twists that favor the queens, and it gives us great television regardless. So, although we can expect a little riggery here and there as it is Drag Races, they do need to make sure their winner is a great representation of the franchise. If they can continue to keep balancing it with these positive changes that they've made this season, then RuPaul's Drag Race will only continue to keep pumping out Emmy-winning content as the years come on. RuPaul's Drag Race season 16 is scoring absolute So RuPaul's Drag Race season 16 is absolutely scoring an A overall, and I'm just so thrilled that of all these recent seasons, this is the first that I really get to rate on my channel from the mainline franchise. So now that you know what the show is and what my thoughts are on it, let's get into the real tea off. If you haven't seen the show, as always, I definitely suggest stopping here or use the chapter select guide to go to specific episodes. So season 16 starts off with our traditional two episode premiere breakdown, which splits our cast into two groups of seven as they compete in their version of the talent show. Let's meet our queens for the first portion of our premiere, shall we? Starting with Q. 26 years old from Kansas City, Missouri, she's a self-described artist and diva known for her self-made looks. Tsunami Muse, 33 from New York City. Candy Muse's drag daughter, a performer and signed runway model, she is an African Hispanic Indigenous queen, originally from Panama, but again now living in NYC. Mandatory Meeting, 26 years old from Los Angeles, California, is a comedy queen whose drag is 80s influence with bright colors, and there's already shade on her when she walks in and you can see the neckline of her chest plate. And let me tell you, this is going to be a running theme this season, which I don't get why we are progressing backwards. Hide your breastplate, please, y'all. It ruins the illusion. Anyways, we have Morphine Love Neon walk in next year, who's 26 from Miami, Florida, who considers herself the beauty and the booty. She is the Latin body goddess of Miami, whose mug is always on 100 and known for that BBL. Safira Cristal, 34 from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, is next to Wail In, and she is an opera, jazz, R&B singer. She considers herself to be a drag queen's drag queen of the old school scene, where bigger is always better. We have Mirage, 29 from Las Vegas, Nevada, who walks in with the best entrance line of the episode.
I hope you trash bags are ready to lose.
And she considers herself to be the legs of Las Vegas, and her style is very stripper who shops at Claire's. Finally, we have Dawn, 25 from New York City, the extravagant elf goddess. She is also a self-made look queen. After our introductions, Rue brings us their first mini challenge, the photo shoot, which is returning from last season, as well as the OG seasons, which is a fun way to start the season off. The queens have to pose for the ring cam on Rue's porch, which is ridiculous as everyone embraces the concept for the most part, just having fun on Rue's porch since it's rather nonsensical to begin with, and it's just about making Rue laugh. Saphira seems to have the best banter with Rue while also taking good pictures, so that's probably why she's declared the winner. Rue then drops the premiere twist bombshell that for the first time since season 5, immunity is back. The purple potion of salvation can be used to save either themselves or another queen from future elimination, but it has to be used prior to the judges' critiques, much like a hidden immunity idol in Survivor. And I'm like, yes, thank you, production, for no more shady chocolate bars. This is such a better way to implement this twist because it just you give it out once at the start, and you let the queen decide when to use it. And there's also a time limit, and she could also use it on somebody else. So it's not going to make anything really unfair here, and it also could set up for some great drama if she ends up using things strategically or in a way that saves maybe a friend from an elimination that sends somebody else in her place. I mean, there's just so many good storylines that can be set up from this sort of twist, and I am here for it. But in order to determine who will win this immunity, they will compete in the spring break talent show, which, to be expected at this point, I mean, will be our opening challenge. However, in yet another shocking twist, Rue will not be judging this week. Instead, the queens are rating each other using the Rate a Queen app, as they will determine the tops and bottoms for the week. The girls are gagged by this season's new twist as they discuss the merits of ranking fairly. Meanwhile, Amanda is getting a lot of shade from the other girls for her look, especially Dawn and Morphine. Morphine might be a little extra shady this episode since she later reveals her family does not know she actually does drag, meaning they don't even know she's currently competing. Academy Award winning actress Charlize Theron also visits the girls in the workroom to give them an emotional pep talk as they head into their first challenge. And their also first runway, which is Reveal Themselves. We start off with Morphine Love Dion, who does a ballet folklorico, which is nice and cultural, but then she hose it up at the end, and her reveal is a towel dress into a bathing suit, which is a cute idea, but the towels kind of look a little cheap, but who am I to say it? Mandatory Meeting goes next with her original lip sync song, My Kitty, that was pretty funny, but Morphine hates it, and let's laugh at her wig flying off when she does her scary housewife into an even scarier purple alien. It's just so Ah, Amanda. I don't want to give her any sort of things here because she's been getting enough here. I love Amanda. She is amazing, and I could see the concept, what she's going for here, but purple, oof. She does get really bad critiques on her face and her hair, but she does get great critiques for her energy. Now, Dawn does an original lip sync song as well. She's weird in it, but it makes sense because it's like a strange fever dream in a way as we enter Dawn's world. And she does a Yeti look for her reveal yourself look into a long sleeve monster. So, I mean, she did that in her talent show. I mean, is that the only thing you do here, Dawn? I'm not going to say that, but a great premiere here. Look for Dawn, at least initially, if this is the only time she's going to do it. Um, Up next is Q, who does a puppet show, but using her face instead with the puppet. So it's just a really funny comedic performance here. It's definitely Q is just very expressive in it, which just makes it even more funny. Like there's just something about this that is just so charming, and you could definitely tell Q did her research, and this is something outside the box that I think we could probably expect from Q moving forward, especially when we see her runway look, which is just so amazing. It goes from the black moth look to the colorful runway rings, which is just really pretty. And we find out that she made it again because she's a self-made look queen. So her looks just look way more polished, and I'm sure Dawn is jealous at this point. We then get Mirage, who does an original lip sync song, but featuring stripper heel clacking, and it is so good. I do agree what the judges mean, though, when it feels like she would probably perform this multiple times and we would get a different version each time, just because she doesn't seem like the most rehearsed person, and she was just kind of doing whatever she wanted. And her reveal, it does kind of remind me of like a feather version of Roxy's Candy Dorito from season 5, but it is very pretty when it reveals, and then we get the boobies. We then get Tsunami Muse, who does an original song, and I mean, eh, she kind of just walked back and forth in a line, and it's just kind of I get it. Tsunami's the model girl, but it was just could have been a little bit more higher energy. Something else, Tsunami. Add a little bit more than just walking here. Her reveal is just basically she takes off her coat. I do kind of agree that I was kind of expecting a little bit more from Tsunami here, but in the premiere. But I mean, it could just be a situation where these looks and situations just kind of lined up for once. So we'll give Tsunami another chance because we know she's a muse. She's got to be there somewhere. Finally, closing out the talent show is Safira Cristal, who does opera singing with some fake lyrics up on the prompter, which are hilarious because it's just like, who would ever expect to relate the two together? Like, you remember we see Monet initially doing her opera act, and it was very funny. So to get this kind of twist on it, making it comedy, is a great, great look here for Safira. Speaking of great looks, we get her None to Ho look, except, which is, I mean, she is great here. It is a fun look, but what are these little boobies, girl? Like, why do you have the smallest breastplate of all time? Like, I'm also laughing when the judges literally call it baby's first breastplate. This will be a running storyline as we go along here. So we'll find out later that she eventually will get some other breastplates, some larger, more fitting breastplates later on. Makes me wonder where they got it from. Hmm. Show us where they came from, Saphira. After all the performances, we finally get to what we were waiting for all episode, the ratings. And nothing too shady happens here. It feels like most people rank rather correctly for the most part. Seems like most people kind of put Amanda and Tsunami low, but Morphe and Good Tsunami a mid-ranking to try to keep her out of the bottom because they're not sure if there will be elimination or not. Turns out, though, as to be expected, this is a non-elimination premiere, as, again, there is no bottom two this week. It is a top two instead. Girls rate, and we find out that they have rated Q and Saphira Cristal as the top two. They lip sync to Break My Soul by Beyonce, and I thought they both did pretty well here. And maybe it's just because it's Beyonce, but even Q feels like she's vibing a little bit, despite what we'll soon kind of learn about her danceability in later episodes. Spoiler alert. Wow, I'm just doing so many spoiler alerts here. But I think Saphira takes it for me in the end with the sliding split, and she just has very emotive facial expressions that just send me the ending with her doing the splits with her tiny breastplate like falling out of her clothes and then just like smacking her in the face as she splits up and down was just too much here. Saphira completely dominates this premiere, taking the mini and maxi challenge, giving this early frontrunner the first immunity potion of the season. But as always, when there is a part one of a premiere, there is part two, so we still have 7 more queens waiting in the wings to show themselves as possible frontrunners as well. So let's meet them, starting with Hershey Liqueur Jete, 32, from Los Angeles, California. Now, she's Cornbread Jete's sister from season 14, and her aesthetic is very glam, camp, auntie drag that is both beautiful and stupid, as she says. Then meet Plasma, 24, from New York City, who's actually inhabited by a 60-year-old, as she says. This Broadway queen feels the spirits of Hollywood legends like Judy Andrews, Judy Garland, and Barbara Streisand. We have Geneva Carr, 30, from Brownsville, Texas, dramatic with Mexican spice. As she says, she is the first Mexican-born queen to be on RuPaul's Drag Race, and she's also a TikToker known for styling her leg hair with 11 million views, which, I mean, you go girl, you do you. The next skit, Plain Jane, with the most dramatic arrival of the season. She considers herself the authentically Russian clown hooker, known for her big boobs, big hips, small waist, and pretty face. She immediately walks in and says she's not the villain, she's just a bitch, and she immediately proves that by shading the first 3 girls as the Brick Squad and calling them all out in Russian, which, now I'll be honest, I was not a big fan of Plain Jane initially here, but we will grow to love her antics as she becomes one of the stars of the season for sure. Spoiler alert. Now we also have Megami, 33, from New York City as well, starting out in cosplay. This Latina from Brooklyn considers herself high fashion and avant-garde. We have Maya Mon-LePage, 34, from Miami, Florida, who describes herself as a ball of fire doing flips and tricks. She is a TikTok sensation with multiple 1 million plus videos. Now, prior to the final queen walking into the workroom, Plain Jane manifests that the next girl slips. So, when we get our final entrance of Nymphia Wind, 27, newly to New York City, from Taiwan, the self-described Banana Buddha proves Plain Jane as a true witch when Nymphia does actually slip on her banana as her entrance. She is the first Taiwanese queen to make it to RuPaul's Drag Race, and she considers herself very conceptual, cultural, and yellow. She considers herself a deity here to spread yellow fever with her banana believers. Now, in yet another ridiculous opening mini challenge photo shoot concept, we are taken to the She MV where the next 7 queens have to pose for their license with T.S. Madison. Everybody mostly just has fun at the She MV with Maya falling asleep waiting in line, which is like, okay, girl, relatable. We find out here that Nymphia Wind is declared the winner, and following the challenge, Rue drops the bombshell on them that they will again be competing for another immunity potion, as well as doing the Rate a Queen app. Now, everyone is discussing who will be a fair ranker, and no one really thinks Plain Jane is going to rank fair. And to be fair, Plain is thinking completely strategically here. While Hershey reveals she has 2 adopted kids from her boyfriend's sister, Becky G stops by the workroom to give the girls a pep talk right before their first challenge, the Queen Choice Awards, a play on Nickelodeon's Kid Choice Awards, which is once again hosted by Derek Barry. They'll also have to show off their Made You Look runways, and in order of their performances, we get Geneva, who does an original song that is infused with traditional Mexican dance, and she hoes it up at the end, much like Morphine does. It's pretty good. Her Mario to Maria runway as well is probably the most fun reveal as it drops down and kind of comes out from her chest and like spins around. Just a lot of fun to watch on that one. We then get Hershey, who does Whiplash, Whiplash. And that scene, I mean, it makes no sense with her being in the jungle. And I mean, her outfit isn't cute, but it is very entertaining. Like, I'm here for Hershey's kind of like crunchiness, is if you want to say it. Like, I get it. There's a level of polish here, maybe, that she doesn't have as much as the other people, but I feel like that's actually what she's going for. I feel like she's going for something maybe a little more simple, a little less extravagant, and that might be to her detriment when she's competing against these types of people, but I don't feel like she should be judged for it because I feel like she does have some good looks in her repertoire. I will defend you, Hershey. And I'll be honest, her look here, I mean, again, it is her trend. It is very granny. It is very a chocolate bar, as she wants to say, and it's cute. I like it. I don't mind it. It's good for her, and I like it. We then have Plasma, who does some singing, some cabaret, and then some impressions, which are all good, but as the judges say, she's not great really at any of them, and she's kind of fitting a lot to a short period of time here, which I think she does well here to keep herself safe, but she probably should have maybe taken a part of it out, just edited it slightly, just so she could maybe focus on one or two of the bits, just to kind of work on, the focus of where everything's going here to get the judges' attention. And her look is pretty cute here. She's a needle pillow, and she disrobes into like a burlesque needle pillow. I mean, cute. We'll take it. I like it. Not what I was expecting here from Plasma, because she kind of gives Miss Jinx Monsoon vibes here. But her aesthetic is definitely not Jinx Monsoon's. We then get Miss Nymphia Win, who does a traditional Taiwanese cultural dance, and the music and the outfit are really beautiful. And she does a reveal where her sleeves do like the dawn thing, but hers is actually like traditional, I believe, with the Taiwanese dance versus like whatever world dawn's from. So it just comes out very beautiful. At the same time, too, with her reveal, it is a great way to kind of brand herself here as she comes out as the lifestyle as a banana. And I mean, it's so random, but she has four different looks here where she starts out as like a normal banana that's trying to be like ripened, then she sprouts into like a regular banana, then she's like a slightly weathered banana, and then finally ends up as a rotten banana. So it's kind of sad, but lovely at the same time for our first look here from Miss Nymphia. Up next is Megami, who does a lip sync to What's Going On, and she holds a not steamed flag, as Plain Jane says, and then she holds up poster boards at the end. And gotta be honest, I get what she's going for here because she's trying to do a thing here for drag rights. But at the same time, though, it's like doing this on the set of RuPaul's Drag Race. I get it is a national platform here, but aren't the people watching RuPaul's Drag Race kind of already going to be the ones who are going to be supporting queer arts to begin with? So I kind of agree with Plain Janie here. Like, is this something worth projecting? Not the best way to start out here, especially when her reveal in her look here is her eyes, which it feels like she's thinking like a little bit more for the category here. I get sometimes you really want to be original and think outside the box, but this is far too outside the box. Like, she ended up just running outside the box, and I don't know where the eternity goes outside the box here, but she's somewhere out in the void. We then have Maya, who does a lip sync featuring Stunts and Flips, and it's like, damn, girl, she's a very like Aja meets Kennedy, All Stars 3. It's just really good here. I get why her views are so high on all of her videos because she is very talented and she makes it look so easy too. And she does a reveal here, which starts with her just wearing a jacket, which is like, why do all the girls just kind of wear a jacket and then take it off? Like, that's not a reveal, y'all. Give us a real reveal. And then she starts off by holding it, and then she keeps jacket on for like 2 seconds and throws it off immediately. It's like, Maya does not know runway presence, and it kind of we get this feeling from Maya moving on that this is part for the course here for Maya's runways, unfortunately, as we move on. Spoiler alert, but I'm still loving Maya's performance here. She's so high energy, and she's just so much fun to watch. We finished the talent show with Plain Jane, who was initially giving me Katya vibes, but then goes full Jimbo for her burger finger performance here. I will say that the song production is really good, very high quality, but again, what in the Jimbo here? Like, I was a little bit worried here that maybe she could be like sucking up some inspiration from other queens here, but I also have to give her the benefit of the doubt. Jimbo's season All Stars 8 was airing, I believe, while she was filming this. So we'll just say it's a coincidence here, even though there's another coincidence later on here. You know what? I love Plain Jane. I'm going to give her benefit of the doubt here. And her reveal here, she goes from this Russian religious robe to a Boston bimbo, which is also, again, very Jimbo. I'm just saying, but she gets great critiques all around from the judges, and the girls are all very surprised by her performance. So now we get to the rankings, and as the girls are ranking, everybody thinks Plain Jane is going to rank shady and skew the rankings, and she does, deciding to skew everything in favor of trying to get Nymphia out at the top, deciding to rank in reverse order of how she actually believed people were going, ranking Plasma number 1 because her makeup was terrible, and ranking poor Miss Nymphia Wynn last, who gave one of the best performances, but I get it, she's trying to give herself the best chance of being in the top, which she does, because again, it's revealed there is no bottom 2 for this week instead of top 2, and Geneva Carr joins Plain Jane in the top 2 as they lip sync to Becky G Shower in front of Becky G. We'll say it was a pretty laid back lip sync because it's a pretty, chill song, and both girls do well here, but Plain Jane's peekaboo throughout, and her not realizing till the end was very hilarious, and I think it also boosted her up here because, that little titty was like lip syncing along with her, as Hershey said. So, of course, the shady bitch has to win here at the end, and they give the second immunity potion to Miss Plain Jane. That's the tea, and I cannot wait to see how this season turns out. Eyes. It's now episode 3, and as always, the two groups come together and the girls meet for the first time. We get backstory that Plain Jane and Morphine are actually drag family, and Morphine is surprised that Plain Jane won. Plain Jane is also hating on Amanda here, and we learn later on that there's also a possible tiff between Plasma and Saphir, as they find out they are singing rivals. Saphira and Plain are given their immunity potions, and we officially learn their hidden immunity powers and its expiration date. Rue then reveals they will be competing in the ball with the first elimination waiting for them on the next runway. Dawn and Q find each other to be the biggest competition in this design challenge. Meanwhile, Rue drops by the workroom to deliver the results of the first week's ranking. Plain Jane is worried her shady rankings will be revealed, but it's only the placements of the groups with no actual information about anybody voting being revealed, so meh. I mean, so much drama that could have been revealed here, but they decided to play it safe. I get it, but come on, y'all. Next year, show us the results. Now, Morphine is shook, she's 5th, while Amanda was ranked dead last in Group 1, and Megami is the last one ranked in Group 2. The next morning, Plain Jane tries to psych out Geneva Carr, while Nymphia becomes a Spanish messenger pigeon as she gets back and forth with Morphine and Maya as they send Spanish insults back and forth through her trying to remember them. Love Nymphia here. Now, Group 2 seems to have a lot of friction as opposed to Group 1, who are definitely getting along way better. We then get to the Maxi Challenge, which is the mother of all balls, and they will have to deliver 3 looks, 2 from home as always, and 1 that they make in the workroom. First look is Mother Goose, an outfit inspired by a classic nursery rhyme. Second is Significant Mother, an outfit inspired by one of their famous favorite moms. And their final look is Call Me Mother, Father Eleganza. From scratch, they need to make a Mother of the Ball outfit using only menswear, which like suits, flannels, work clothes, etc. In another twist, they will rate a queen to determine the placements of who is in the top and who is in the bottom. But it doesn't sound like this week anybody feels like ranking shady, aka Plain Jane, so everybody judges rather fairly. That leaves us with our 3 tops for the week being Q, who is praised for her artistry and craftsmanship on all 3 looks. Nymphia, who is praised for her versatility and her 3-dimensional ties in her final look, which are just like, wow, stunning. And Saphira, who's praised for 3 good looks overall and her stage presence and presentation just being top notch. Our bottom queens for the week are Geneva Carr, who kind of missed the mark on all 3 looks to all the judges. Everything was either too big or too small, and there were way better Selma Hayek looks. Her Sheila Corjete ends up in the bottom, although her first B look is perfection, as I mean, it should be. It's a B. We love it. Her fast 2 looks are just not that good, and she literally just cuts out some fabric and sticks it into the pocket of some jeans she finds for her final look. And it's just like, oof, not a good start here. Maya also ends up in the bottom here with feathers covering her face in the first look, her little Kim for her second look being a little bit more Missy Elliott, and Rue just kind of calls her out on the runway for being timid, and it's just, oof, not a good start for our bottom 3 here. When all is said and done here, Nymphia Win is declared the winner, while Q, Saphira, and Maya Iman LePage are declared safe. We get our lip sync from Geneva Carr versus Hershey LaCour to Maybe You're the Problem by Ava Max. And I'd say both girls are entertaining here, with Geneva going a more traditional performance route, while Hershey uses her auntie persona since it seems like she doesn't really do tricks or flips a bunch here. I do find my attention going a bit more to Hershey, mostly because I just enjoy her presence, and I think that she has a wonky eyelash here going on, and I couldn't get over it. But I do see why Geneva won since it was a traditionally strong lip sync, but can I just say I am so sad to be losing Hershey here first, just because she was so likable. I'm glad they gave her some screen time in the first two episodes, and granted her style was a little crunchy, and I mean that final look was just not great considering it was just fabric in a pocket. But I still would have liked to see Hershey compete in like an acting or a comedy challenge because I think she really could have excelled and shined there. But just sucks the luck of the draw gave her the design challenge first, as her departure takes us down to 13 Queen. Episode 4 begins entering the workroom after Hershey's elimination, with Geneva thinking the queens are shady because she thinks Mirage should have been ranked in the bottom for her look of shreds instead of her. Q feels some type of way as well, getting runner-up again, which is like, oh, why are all these girls trying to come for Queen Jan's storyline? We have a flashback to the only time something interesting happens in Tuck this season, when Amanda and Plain Jane have a disagreement over Plain Jane's openly shading Amanda's look. And this drama is continued to be facilitated by Dawn and Morphine, who are cackling as Amanda and Plain Jane have it out. Rue announces the next Maxi Challenge, RDR Live, which is returning from All Stars 8, with almost the exact same sketches too, and the drama continues as the girls attempt to pick their parts. Morphine wants to do the slutty role with Plain Jane, but Plain pretends to be concerned that Morphine won't shine, and turns her down, choosing to be partnered with Megami, who she could probably outshine. Mirage and Saphira initially have conflict over who's going to be the host, but Saphira strategically steps down, which throws Mirage off, and now it seems like Mirage is second-guessing this decision, and Mirage later finds it a struggle to work alone while everybody has a group to bounce ideas off of. Saphira kind of shades Mirage during the workroom walkthrough when she points out that she gave up the role, which makes Mirage even more insecure. Plasma doesn't believe the barbershop quartet actually needs to sing as well too, and wants to keep her role as the news anchor. Amanda and Dawn, as well as Q as the third in their trio, push Plasma out of the role though, and basically force her to do the Barbara Streisand role, while gaslighting her into remembering that it's what she excels at best. Plasma holds Barbara in such high regard, so she rants about the situation, although she is determined to do her best. Geneva Carr actually didn't read her lines first, so she has no idea who her character is either, and they're doing the opening sketch, which is kind of awkward, while Maya gets critiques in the walkthrough that she is still too reserved and needs to come out of her shell. Rue's not really buying the first group as a whole, and I don't really think I am either. So in order how they perform in the RDR live stretch, we get Group 1, which is the end of the world countdown, Morphine Love Dion with Tsunami Muse, featuring Maya Iman LePage and Geneva Carr, and this opening is very crunchy. Geneva clearly doesn't know her character at all. Morphine and Tsunami are just kind of saying their lines, and Maya actually has a really funny part, but she seems really uncomfortable, so even though they wanted to set the tone for the opening, it doesn't really land. We then get to Mirage's opening, and hosting is the hardest part, and this was not that good at all. Mirage kept stumbling over her words. She's pausing at weird times in her speech, and you could tell she's reading the teleprompter. I'm feeling for Mirage here and starting to think maybe she should have joined a group. We then get the third scene, thick and long deck service with Megami and Plain Jane, and Plain Jane is definitely outshining Megami. Although again, to be fair, she is giving more Jimbo, but again, didn't see it, can't blame her. But Plain Jane's doing really well here, and they end up pulling this one off. In the next scene, which is the Q Network News, we get a mandatory meeting, Q and Dawn, with Amanda and Dawn doing pretty good as the news anchors, but Q kind of steals the show a little bit, being more animated as the Stonewall Brick, but it's all kind of cringe, I'll be honest, with the concept of the Stonewall Brick is just a little weird, but you know, whatever, do your thing, comedy writers. I will say that Q is committed, so I'll give her that. We then get to our final scene, which is the barbershop quartet with Nymphia Wind, Plasma, and Saphira Crystal, and they benefit from having the most original sketch out of the group from the original time this was shown in All Stars 8, and they're all very funny. Even though I lose a little of Nymphia's lyrics, Plasma is clearly in her element here, though, as she shines Nymphia and Saphira quite a bit, but they all do really well. Tonight's runway category is Everything, Every Share, All at Once, and our tops for the week are Plain Jane, who gets positive critiques for being very funny and underselling her character, and having the strongest Mackie/Cher look of the night. Q also gets positive critiques on the fashion and for staying in character as the Stonewall Brick, whereas Ross says that he could not have imagined this sketch without Plasma being involved in it. And don't worry about being typecast. Do what you need to do for your own good when you know that you're good at it. Plasma really shined this episode and comes off very humble and likable, honestly. For our bottoms, we have Maya, who is in the bottom again, unfortunately. She gets praised for being committed, but didn't really have any depth to her character. And also, what is her Cher Kermit impression?
I'm
Like a
right.
dying here. We then have Geneva, who clearly doesn't know who her character is in the skit, and Mirage, who got critiques for telegraphing jokes and not knowing her reference for her share. So, as Sarah Michelle Gellar, my goddess from my childhood, love you Buffy, watches, Plasma is declared the winner, while Plain Jane, Q, and Maya Iman LePage are declared safe. It means our lip sync for this episode is Geneva Carr versus Mirage to Dark Lady by Cher, and my eyes are all on Mirage. And it's initially giving like Geneva was kind of put in the bottom here to go home, being that this is now her second time in a row. But Mirage doesn't know the words. Ugh, girl, you had one job. Why? I was rooting so hard for Mirage, so seeing her Shantae away is really rough. Is one of the biggest crash and burns we've seen on the show in a really long time. And oh my god, Rue kind of looked really pissed off at Mirage for not knowing the words to share. And she does have an extremely emotional reaction here. I'm glad that, spoiler alert, Margie's come back later in the lip sync Smackdown for all the eliminated queens as a moment of redemption, because this is just a really, really rough way to go out. But it does stand out very memorable here in the early season. And I think gives Mirage even more capital here as that queen that had a very early, probably before her time exit. So I likely think we'll see Mirage here in the future on a future All Stars. Starting the next episode, everyone is very emotional following Mirage's heartbreaking elimination. Q is very in her feelings as well because she's been so close to winning each time but can't clutch it. And Plain Jane calls her out because she almost was in the top but isn't going to feel bad about it herself. It's a running theme this episode that Q goes very Lucy LaDuca and the girls shade her. Amanda and Q, however, feel differently, like Plain Jane is just being rude, and there's a real divide between these two sides starting to form. Prior to the girl group's challenge, Q decides to approach Plain Jane and clear the air over the comment the prior day, and doing so, Plain Jane basically also insults Amanda.
You rest assured, I definitely have more respect for you than I do for
and brings her
Amanda.
into the situation, causing the fight to get even bigger. Saphira has an auntie moment and gives Plain Jane some advice to think about what she says before she says it, or she needs to be ready for the negative reactions. We get to the next Maxi Challenge with girl groups, and they have to redo one of RuPaul's latest singles from his newest album. We have Star Baby group, Saphira Crystal, Dawn, Morphine Love Dion, and Q, and Saphira reveals she's in a girl group, while Morphine feels very strongly she'll be able to do choreo to the number, which she does show some very strong strengths here. Q admits she's not a dancer, and she proves it clearly by having the least natural talent out of everyone with rhythm. The girls all laugh at Q, especially like Nymphia during their choreo, saying she looks very robotic. And in the final performance, her look and just everything she's giving as far as performance value is sadly the worst out of everyone here, just looking very clunky overall. We then get to the Courage to Love group, which is Plasma, A Mandatory Meeting, Tsunami Muse, and Plain Jane. Amanda is pissed off immediately when Plasma picks Plain Jane, and the two of them have a lot of tension during the challenge. Initially, it seems like Amanda is actually excelling in this challenge, ironically helping Plain Jane get the choreo that Plasma is directing. However, Amanda completely bombs the actual performance with her wig, slapping her in the face, according to Michelle. Amanda also completely loses the mark when it comes to the runway category, which oh my god, what is this look? Like, I love the concept, but oof, what is this look? We then get ASMR. Morphine immediately calls this team the weakest link since they're made up of the girls who have mostly bottomed thus far. Megami is upset at being picked last and is determined to prove herself. Although Nymphia struggles a bit with the lyric writing, she really steps up with Maya to do the team's choreo. There's a pretty funny moment where it seems like Maya is whispering to her team when directing the choreo, so it's kind of not looking good for them, but they're definitely the most cohesive team overall when it comes to their performance as well as their looks. While it seems like they have the easiest choreo, they're also the most in sync with each other, which is why they end up all winning the challenge. The edit doesn't even really try to hide who the bottoms are because it's obvious it's Amanda and Q, and they end up lip syncing in our third elimination lip sync to Emergency by Pop in front of Pop. And while Amanda does put up a really good fight, it seems much like a foregone conclusion here that as long as Q knows the words, that she's probably gonna stay. And after Amanda goes very chaotic, Q knows the words, so she stays. I've got to say, I became a very big fan of Amanda during the season just because she seemed to be the biggest underdog we've seen in such a long time. I was pretty convinced all of her airtime was leading to a long run, but it also makes sense that she's an early out because they also sometimes tend to get heavily featured if they're meme worthy for the very short time that they're there. And Amanda had a roller coaster 5 episodes, but this does leave the door open to a very fun glow up all star story in the future. So let's just be happy we got to attend this meeting at all. Let's also never forget that Amanda went home looking like half of a Smurf. Upon Amanda's elimination, episode 6 opens with Plain saying she's turning over a new leaf, which is like, well, that's convenient now that Amanda's gone. They also joke how the last challenge winners actually have a quarter of a win, since in a group of 4 versus a solo win, it's a little different, but a quarter of a win is still more than what Dawn has. We have a mini challenge here, which is a flamenco dance, and Charo joins us for the Cuchi Cuchi Unique Nerve and Talent Off in a Spanish Fly Girl flamenco dance contest. Tsunami has the most sensual movements out of everyone here and is selected as the winner by Charo. Tsunami wins a trip to Spain, but as we've learned prior here, Tsunami actually can't leave the country due to her immigration status, so she actually gives the first eliminated Hershey Liqueur Jete the prize, which is very sweet, which we find out post show. Like, Tsunami, really cool to do here. Now we have our latest maxi challenge here, and which turns out to be again our runway category because it's a design challenge called Welcome to the DollHouse. In this design, branding, and storytelling challenge, the queens will have to make a look for themselves while making a coordinating look for their own doll, which they have to sell for us on the runway. There's a lot of bright colors and sparkly fabric, and for some reason this episode, all of our drama is surrounding the supplies, which, I mean, I guess they wanted to embrace the materials because our journey starts out with Geneva grabbing the red fabric that Plain really wants. Plain takes some of this other fabric, realizing it's kind of gross, and tries to go to Geneva to get some of the red fabric, but Geneva senses Plain wants something, and they bicker, kind of like they've done episodes prior here. Instead, Plain decides to use this blue fabric that Plasma is using on her own period-themed outfit, to which Plain is now inspired to make an aquatic-themed gown because it's blue. We get a lot of backstory on Plain this episode where she explains that she finds her critical eye and bluntness stemming from her Russian background. So let's go back to Geneva here for a moment, who is definitely struggling to make her outfit work because she's trying to add some coordinating mesh fabric that doesn't work with the red, and she soon realizes she doesn't have enough red fabric, so she's completely changing her outfit at this point, making Plain annoyed because she ruined the red fabric, and prompting Q to call her out that Geneva is done for. In other side stories here, Nymphia pretends to struggle while the girls realize she likes to play games and make people discount her, which I'm like, I'm here for the mind games, Nymphia. Play them. Let them underestimate you. They are kind of catching on to her, so, it's only going to work for so long here in NPR. Although I don't think she's really doing it. I think she actually is in her head most of the time. I kind of get like that a lot of the times during testing. Like, I think I did well, but I always have this thing in the back of my head where I'm probably going to struggle, and I just don't want to get too overly cocky. And I think that's kind of what Nymphia does. It's always good to have a little air of cautiousness and paranoia in these competitions, because as this season shows, you are never truly safe. In the meantime, here too, we have Maya, who's actually struggling to make her outfit, which leads to Saphira practically making it for her. This leads to Saphira not having as much time as she generally would have liked to work on her own gown. So when the girls are preparing for the runway, Plain, who is always in her sneaky ass Fifi O'Hare strategy headspace, which I love, makes a side comment, just ever so loud for Saphira to hear that Saphira should be the one thinking about using her immunity potion tonight. And Saphira immediately gets into her head, starting to think she might have done fucked up. On the main stage, Plain Jane officially has gotten into Saphira's head as she drinks her immunity potion. I mean, totally unnecessary, Miss Saphira, but she knows this as well too, and is immediately disappointed with herself. So she leaves the stage, and our tops are revealed to be Plain Jane in her aquatic edition, as she gets positive critiques on her extremely tailored look. While they take note of the fact she has the same fabric as a lot of the different girls here, the judges wonder why anybody else would have used that fabric knowing how successful Plain's outfit was, and why they would want to be compared to it directly. Looking at you, Geneva and Plasma, although Plasma, I think, has a little bit more of an excuse since Plain took it from Plasma. But we do have Dawn also in the top here for her Galactic Empress edition, getting positive critiques, especially from Law Roach, Just Judge, about being able to show a different side of herself without the elf ears or being a different color. Q also has her Fantasy Edition, which, why everyone decided to go for bright colors and sparkly colors, Q stood out by using the earth tones, which is giving just a really good richness and glamour that no one else is giving. I think the name is kind of generic for it all, but that's just me nitpicking because the idea is definitely the most elaborate out of anybody on stage here. After a dramatic Lucy LaDuca arc in the span of 3 episodes, Q finally gets her design challenge win. So our bottoms for this episode are Plasma, whose passenger on the Pacific Edition is very detailed, but Rue feels like the jokes that she used trying to sell it were not very effective, and T.S. Madison is really distracted by her messing with her hood during the runway. Maya on the page finds herself in the bottom for her Queen of Flips edition, as she gets critiques for not patting her doll and not actually flipping during her performance, which I'm like, okay. But Law is turned on by Maya's breastplate, so at least there's that. Geneva Carr is also in the bottom once again this episode for her Daintiest Doll Texas edition for getting critiques for using different fabrics and makeup on herself than she did on her doll, saying the doll is much prettier than she was, which is like, oops. And Law hates her shoes. The idea is also really confusing being the daintiest doll, but everything is bigger in Texas, so I do get why Geneva Carr ends up being in the bottom here with Maya on the page as they lip sync to Control by Janet Jackson. And I'm kind of sad for Maya being in the bottom, but oh my god, am I so excited to see her come through on these flips. Kind of funny that Michelle was like, we didn't get to see the Queen of Flips do flips in this outfit. Well, here you go, Michelle, you got what you want. Geneva is keeping up to some degree, but I think she definitely has the disadvantage of doing a lip sync performance on every episode she's been on so far, so Maya's move just seems a lot more fresh and exciting. My favorite random storyline from the season will be wondering how Geneva does every episode just based on how red her eyes are in her confessionals, just because she was always crying, but sadly I'm the one in tears because now all of that is over as we head into episode 7. So here we are, episode 7, and the new lip sync assassin has arrived in Maya Lamont Page as all the girls kind of see why she is still here. Although Morphine is quick to remind us all that Drag Race is not just about lip syncing, which is like, yes, Miami girls bigger. The queens welcome Q to the winner's circle finally, but then they all start counting wins, and Dawn tells everyone not just yet, likely because she doesn't have one. Also, let's all laugh at Megami shading Dawn calling her Buzz Lightyear, because that was perfect. We learned here that they're about to do the Sound of Rusical, and Adam Shakeman will be choreographing this season. Now, there's a few disputes here when it comes to parts. Megami and Q fight over the Baroness role. Q wins the rock, paper, scissors match, meaning Megami needs to find another role. Meanwhile, Saphira and Plasma seem to kind of divide the group's opinion on who should get the lead role, and Morphine gets kind of annoyed that no one thinks that she should be the lead. Plasma decides to enter her Mean Girl era, saying there is no other option and she's doing it, so the other girls give up. Saphira takes Mother Superior, which is the run rule that Megami also wanted, so she kind of gets shoved into one of the leftover parts, as does Morphine. There is a lot of attention on Plasma, partially because when Saphira fought with a girl last time for the lead, that girl went home, and partially because Plasma just won't shut up for how excited she is about the role. There's a pretty funny moment where Dawn breaks the fourth wall to side-eye the camera, which is literally me at every moment I ever go to one of these shows. There is a little bit of drama there, though, because Plasma does not realize exactly how huge her part is, and she has a portion with basically every other group she needs to learn. I'm laughing here at Plain shading Plasma, saying she has the scoliosis of a 65-year-old during her warm-up performances here, and things are in question here. How is Plasma gonna do? Now, being the mean girls of the musical, Plain Jane, Q, and Tsunami try to get in everyone's heads in a very playful way, although they do try to ruffle Megami's feathers because it seems she's the most bothered about not getting a role that she wanted. But Megami feels like she proved herself during the girl groups and that she could stand out while being underestimated. On the main stage, the queens meet Adam Shankman, who teaches the queens some pretty intense choreography. Maya seems to have some issues, surprisingly, but she reveals she's not technically used to learning steps, especially to this style of music. There's a random moment where Melissa McCarthy comes in pretending to be Adam's assistant, and she spends a quick moment watching the queens practice before giving them a pretty heartfelt encouragement speech, which I love we keep getting from the celebs this season. They all seem to truly want to be part of the experience to support the queens and drag, especially in this political climate, so it's nice to see the support from her allies in Hollywood. There's some more drama between Mikami and the other girls when she's commenting from the sidelines as Q and Plain Jane struggle a little bit learning their choreo. Clearly, you are not pressed, Miss Megami, because you are after everyone. There is some more chatter, and eventually it's time to perform. So, essentially, the musical is a girls' group singing competition high above the Alps. We have the Baronesses, who are the villains who win every single season, played by Q, Plain Jane, and Tsunami Muse. The Vaughn Snaps are lovable weirdo underdogs, played by Dawn, Megami, and Nymphia Wind. Mother Superior and the Bad Habits, the nuns who serve as our narrators to some degree, played by Saphira Cristal, I Am on the Page, and Morphine Love Dion, and our young ingenue in lead, Mariah, played by Plasma. Ultimately, this musical turns out very successful. Everyone does really solid, although the most noticeable error is when Maya's habit falls over her face while she's performing, which is like, oh no, girl, poor Maya, not again. So this week's runway category is I Could Buy Myself Flowers, and we learned that this week Dawn, Nymphia Wind, Plain Jane, and Tsunami Muse are safe. And our top are Plasma as Mariah Grande, and wow, at this look that Plasma is giving, she is so much more fashion than I was ever expecting her to give this season, and this look is really good. She gets so many positive critiques for staying in it the entire time and never losing her energy the entire performance. The little messy wig always made me laugh, but I have to agree, otherwise this musical would have been a disaster if Plasma was not at the top of her game, and she was seriously S tier. Saphira is also in the top for billing Mother Superior. And first off, where is Saphira hiding these runway looks? Like a giant pumpkin and now this? Like it feels like every look of hers just needs its own suitcase. Like I feel like my favorite moment of the musical was Saphira's solo, and that was the point I laughed the most. So I agree this placement is 1000% correct, with Saphira showing us she doesn't even need that damn potion at this point. Q also ends up at the top here as the Baroness. The judges really loved Q in the musical, and I gotta say on first watch, I wasn't sure I was there myself, but she did do a solid job as the character when I rewatched it, and I can't say she did anything wrong. And that Lotus Mantis look thing is really good, but something about the way she did her presentation on the runway kind of took me out of the fantasy a little bit. I also had to laugh at Megami calling out she didn't really have any choreo, which I have to agree there because she was just walking, but I'm also probably just a hater, honestly, because I was having a hard time in the first few weeks vibing with Q, but she's very talented, so I will give her her flowers. Unintended here. Well, our bottoms for the episode are Morphine Love Diana's bad habit number one, is they feel like Morphine didn't commit to her role 100%, which I was actually a little surprised here because I thought Morphine was trying to own her role as much as she could, but her look was definitely one of the most basic, and I do think a lot of others probably did better, so I'd agree. I Am on the Page also is in the bottom as bad habit number two, getting critiques for basically having no character and being too timid and reserved, and I would have to agree. I do think there's just something about being in these group situations, still holding your star power, and Maya is definitely struggling with this portion. Megami also is in the bottom here as Snitchel, as they definitely get on Megami for kind of disappearing into the background and the focus was not on her, which kind of makes sense because there's always a way to kind of steal the scene as a supporting role based off your expressions and reaction to what's going on around you. So I completely agree that Megami just didn't seem to be on, and she would turn off when the moment wasn't involving her. We find out here the challenge winner of the week is Plasma, getting her second win of the season, while Q, Saphira, and Morphine are safe. Megami and Maya Lamont Page end up in the bottom two in Lip Sync to Flowers by Miley Cyrus, which is like, I get the runaway title now, y'all, so smart. Now going into the lip sync, we learn Megami thinks she has the advantage here because the tempo of this song is a lot slower and it doesn't typically suit tricks and flips, which is all she thinks Maya can do. And for the moment, especially when Maya goes to kick off her high heels, I'm thinking maybe Megami was right, but Maya says F y'all's drag standards about shoes and lip syncs because she turns up her energy and takes us to church, immediately taking over the stage with her presence to the point that I forgot Megami was even there. Megami seemed to have some very bad luck throughout this competition, and I will say my first impression from her talent show, she's definitely grown on me a lot more since then, but it feels like this is probably the right spot for her exit as there are just more queens bringing it now to the competition than she has, unfortunately. Now we start episode 8 with Maya Iman LePage going off at the mirror, just calling everybody out this episode to start us off with, saying she just needs to prove herself to shut Megami up, saying she can't do a slow song. And I'm just really enjoying Maya at this point, coming out of her shell. I still don't see very much long term potential for Maya at this point, and sadly, she kind of becomes the new Geneva in that I kind of expect her to leave each episode unless she secures a win real soon. Now, this mini challenge is the reading challenge. The library is open, y'all. It's still some tea, and honestly, everybody is pretty funny, other than like Maya, but they cut away from her really quick. Tsunami ends up winning the reading challenge and $3,500, which she easily is the most shady, so I agree. We get to our main challenge for the episode, which is the Snatch game, and Rue brings by Chad Michaels, All Stars 1 winner, and Cher impersonator to the workroom walkthrough. And tell me why at first I actually thought it was Cher, considering it's just been so long since Chad's been on our screen, so very happy to see an OG like Chad here. Also, my other thought was, oh my god, please let this be some huge producer scheme that they thought up this episode to have Maya continue her horrible Kermit Cher impression into the Snatch game, because I would have lived for that alternate universe storyline. They do influence Maya to switch off Tiffany New York Pollard to try someone she feels a little bit more comfortable making Rue laugh with. We also learn that Plain only has 3 more chances to use the immunity potion on either herself or another queen. Gasp! So we get to the Snatch game, and we have Q as Amelia Earhart, Tsunami Muse as the Gold Tooth Fairy, Nymphia Wind as Dr. Jane Goodall, Dawn as Megan McKean, Saphira Cristal as James Brown, Plasma as Patty Lapone, Morphine Dion Love as Anna Delvey, and Maya Iman LePage as Shakita, Trina's cousin. But let's not forget Plain Jane as Yelena Karluska. Before the main stage, Plain's immunity potion becomes all of the talk of the room because Saphira feels like Tsunami needs it the most, while Morphine and Nymphia both try to convince Plain to use it on them. It does sound like between the 3 of them, it's probably going to come down to the runway. Even the queens are saying that, so thankfully for Nymphia, she has a great one right here. There's also a very emotional moment with Saphira about her history with her father, which I feel like a lot of us in the LGBT community can really relate to, myself included. This week's runway category is Dancing Queen, where they try to interpret a different dance form in their drag, and Plain decides to not use the potion on anyone. Saphira is our first top for the episode. I'm laughing here when Michelle calls out all of the covers for Saphira's biscuit shoes. James Brown was a lot of fun. It showed she's clearly having a lot of fun in this competition, which is the key to success on the show. Maya Malapage is also in the top as the judges finally give her praise for stepping out of her shell and picking a character that she was really able to work with. And now I'm like, oh no, Maya's story is over now, huh? We also have Plain Jane in the top, definitely the strongest and funniest character in the Snatch game with the best banter with the other queens. Side note, we learned that Plain was actually a Latin ballroom dancer growing up as a child, but she quit due to the stigma she got in high school for possibly being gay. So I do love the full circle moment here for her to perform on the main stage as the opposite gender in the Latin ballroom style here. So cool. Plain Jane gets her BBW, a big, beautiful win for the beautiful Balkan War survivor. Okay, at this point, I'm officially a Plain Jane fan, so yes, bitch, you get it, bitch. Kudos. Thank you for spilling this tea, man. Now, we also get our bottoms for the episode, which are Tsunami Muse and her salsa outfit, as the judges really liked the idea of the gold tooth fairy, but they didn't understand why she was going for it ultimately at the end of the day, because there was just no depth to the character. Nancy Wind is also in the bottom while wearing her beautiful Japanese botu look. Her Jane Goodall was just not fun, and her runway presentation is getting high praise as always. Rue says that's kind of the issue, that she is very cerebral, so it's hard to connect with Nymphia trying to present herself being so perfect, and when she needs to show the flaws a little bit more. Morphine Love Dion also ends up in the bottom with her flamenco look, as the judges feel like she was just low energy during the Snatch game and really didn't have much of a point of view, which I get because she really could have made this character into the type of character that could have had a lot of depth, and there just wasn't a whole lot there. The judges decide to save Nymphia Win from the bottom 2, leaving Morphine Love Dion and Tsunami Muse to face off in their first lip sync for the season. They end up facing off to Whitney Houston's I Wanna Dance with Somebody Who Loves Me. And I feel like everyone was expecting Nymphia to be in the bottom here because there's a lot of gas from the back, but girl, like the runway look was amazing, and Morphine and Tsunami have yet to win a challenge, so I'm not shocked here. Morphine definitely has most of my attention during this lip sync as her outfit and stage presence is just giving me it all. Tsunami seems slightly more into performing with Morphine versus actually trying to survive, whereas Morphine, she's going all out regardless who she's against. So no shock here when Morphine is called safe, and sadly, the Tsunami warning turned out to be more like a small rainstorm. But, here's hoping we see more from her in the future because Tsunami Muse is really a sweet person, and I'd love to see her return after she gets a chance to kind of learn from this experience and see how her style will translate more into the drag race categories here. She has a lot of like Naomi Smalls upside here that I think she can kind of use, especially kind of tying that into the fact that she is a muse. Like there's just so many places where she could go here. So love Tsunami, sad to see her leave. Episode 9 begins as we are officially at the halfway point in the season, as all the girls are really sad by Tsunami's exit. They're literally all in tears. Plain Jane, though, is excited to have won the Snatch game, but Maya thinks Saphira should have won. And now Saphira is kind of back in her head while all the girls are still shocked Nymphia was not at the bottom. Sounds like we're possibly getting prepared for a shock elimination tonight because everyone keeps talking about how it would be nice to see a big name go home. Now, in our mini challenge, Bryce and Bruno return as the Spit Crew, as Rue tries to find out which girl can do the best spit take in the mini challenge. Basically, Rue will tell a joke and the girls will do their best to pretend to laugh at it. I'm not really even sure how this is gonna be judged, really, but Rue actually has a good joke for Nymphia about her Snatch game fail last week, and Nymphia has a cute reaction, so Rue gives her the win, which is like, okay, whatever, sure. In what turns out to be our third design challenge for the season, which is kind of crazy. I don't know if we get this many seasons with design challenges. It feels like the last time this happened was maybe like season 3. Like, feels like we should have like an acting challenge or something like at this point, but maybe with the writer's strike, they decided to go with another design challenge. Who knows here? But it turns out the queens must make a neo-goth look from only black, white, and gray fabrics. Obviously, Nymphia and Q are confident, but Dawn is in her competitive energy era, feeling like she's guaranteed to be in the top 7, so she's going for a very elaborate look in order to secure her win. Nymphia is sad she can't be in yellow, but she looks great in black too, so she continues her unconfident banana shtick, which the queens aren't even paying attention to anymore. There's literally half of the room that feels unconfident in this challenge. Like, at this conversation with Plain and Plasma that just makes me laugh, where Plain is just like, this is not a neo-goth, like not your old matronly drag girl. Like, I'm living for Plain shade this season, and loving the fact that it's also kind of helpful because she's like literally like your old school drag is not helping here. But also at the same time, too, there's a lot of other mind games that kind of feel like they're happening here because Dawn is trying to convince Plasma to try something new. And I can't really tell if Dawn is actually this coming from like a place of her trying to help Plasma or if she's trying to self sabotage because Plasma decides to try a brand new concept halfway. And Q also kind of starts some drama because Plasma's new concept is similar to Plane's. Plane tries to see what Plasma is doing, and they both kind of get catty because neither of them want to show each other what they're doing. So I'm like, this is all so much drama over a design challenge. Then we have both Maya and Morphine who seem nervous because they don't sew at all. Saphira's in her head too because she doesn't know what goth is really, so she's just gonna try to just do Saphira as Saphira here. Like, so many of these girls could be in trouble right now. At the end of the day, Plasma seems really out of it, and Saphira has a nice moment where she mothers Plasma into getting her energy back. Also, continuing her mother moment, Saphira basically decides just to help Maya and do her entire look at this point, which is like, oof for Maya if this ends up coming out on the main stage, which it does because nobody is safe from critiques this episode. They all have to show their looks on the runway in the See You Next Wednesday category. Our tops for this week are Plain Jane, as she's saving her potion for next week and because the judges really like her look. There's something very different here for Plain Jane, but Michelle doesn't feel like it's on the same level as it really is. I mean, I don't really see it, Michelle. I still think it's a top look, but Michelle is picky as Michelle is. Dawn also gets a lot of positive critiques for her design for the skirt, as she reveals that she actually has an engineering degree, which allows her to make the shape on it. Break time is over at the Haunted Mansion for Saphira Crystal, as she ends up in the top as well too, with a really good look, and the judges give her high praise for her character in selling the garment. Nymphia Wind is also in the top here, getting high praise for her entire garment as well. As we learn, Nymphia went to fashion school, which is really showing here. Judges also really love her presentation, and I love the fact that Nymphia is just going all out on the stage when it comes to showing her looks. Q also gets high praise for her punk rock meets goth look and the texture and construction of it all. I'm just like, yeah, everybody is going to be in the top and everyone's going to win this week because these critiques are all so good. Just kidding, because again, Maya is here with a dress that she did not make, and the judges do like the outfit, but Michelle calls Maya out for not being able to sew, and Maya admits that Saphira helped her with some of the patterns and the skirt. They also call her out on her neck and not being very super flattering for her shape, and she always has like a very high collar, and I kind of get that. I don't know why she always does that. She should sometimes try a plungy neckline; it would probably look good on her, but she's doesn't seem to get that critique whenever they call her out on it. And we also don't understand the story of what she's trying to go for here either, with like the rings of like the raven rings and the raven on her shoulder. I don't know, it just seems all to be very strange. It's good, but it's just not cohesive. I kind of get what they're saying here. Morphine Love Dion is also in the bottom because Michelle's just not blown away by the dress because it is just too simple for her. Although has to really be noted how clean her whole dress really looks here. But compared to everybody else on the stage here, yeah, I guess I could see what they're saying that it is more on the simple side. And then finally, our last person here is Miss Plasma, who ends up in the bottom, as the judges don't really get her look. And I mean, like, it is kind of like 70s Cher meets, like, I don't know what she's doing with, like, the swimsuit middle part, and, like, I don't know. Like, I try to get what she's going for. I get the, I feel like it's brave to try something new, especially when she probably didn't need to. She probably could have stuck to something that she did know and just make it out of the right color pattern that it needed to be. But trying something new is, it is what it is. It's just so sad it ends up looking like this, which could possibly go down as one of the worst looks in RuPaul's Drag Race history here. What? Like I said, she owned it though, and I love Plasma for that. Q ends up being dubbed the winner of this challenge for just that amazing constructed garment that she came up with. While it turns out that Maya Iman LePage and Plasma end up in our bottom two, which we're like, oh no, Miss Plasma, this is not good. She ends up having to sing to the TikTok version of Bloody Mary by Lady Gaga, which is basically it's sped up to like 1,000%. So the Chipmunks are singing it, which I wouldn't mind hearing this song sung by Lady Gaga in a faster tempo. It doesn't sound bad, but did we really have to use the Chipmunk version when the original version is right there? Like, why? Anyway, this lip sync is just, oh my god, a murder from start to finish. Like, I feel like I just witnessed a crime. I should be calling the police and reporting it. Like, what was the insanity that we watched from start to finish here? I'm just so impressed with Maya's ability to perform here. And at this point, she's done a few different performances, and every single one has been kind of different. She kind of at least is pulling out new tricks here. It is a little bit worrying moving forward here for Maya, just because she saved herself so many times at this point. And like Plasma is trying her best, but she's just so frantic. You could kind of feel like in the middle of this, like she doesn't know what she's gonna do to try to like out impress Maya here. And like I don't know how you would either. Like each second goes by and I'm just in disbelief that it for being so strong that this is the way we are gonna lose Plasma. And while I completely agree with the decision, I'm also completely losing my mind at the result of this episode. Just looped and gagged here. Like another front runner goes out very early, making me fear for some of these bitches. So like maybe this top four that we were kind of expecting, let's say top five, but now top four queens here of our front runners. So Saphira, Nymphia, Plane, and Q couldn't possibly be threatened now moving forward as we get into our endgame episode. The gag of this season has officially left all the queens gagged as they enter the workroom following Plasma's elimination at the start of episode 10. They now have the fear of Mother ruin them, realizing that just one slip up and they'll all have to lip sync against Maya, who has just sent home her third girl and continues to rack up the body count at this point. I mean, I would be scared at this point too, because while Maya hasn't been excelling at the daily challenges, she destroys these lip syncs and is just getting stronger and stronger as her confidence grows. And as her confidence grows, so does Maya's shadiness, as her and Morphine get into a little catty moment on the couch where we are clearly being set up for a Miami girl face off at some point. And as Morphine is one of two queens yet to get a win, the other being Dawn, it has really become every girl for themselves. We get to our Maxi challenge for the episode, and as it's election year, I was looking forward to the debate challenge since season 12's was so iconic. Look over there! But instead, this year, Rue has decided we need to be inspired to vote through the power of song and dance. So we get the queens writing lyrics to the anthem Power. This ultimately turns out to just be an advertisement for Werq the World, basically, which we all know that Rue is not one to shy away from some self-promotion whenever possible. Just as a reminder, we are available on iTunes as well, but at least we get some Jamal Sims, who is choreographing and guest judging. Just kidding, we do get Jamal, but we are not available on iTunes just yet. Some funny points leading up to the challenge are Maya deciding to rhyme equal with equal and attempting to find a way to make it work in the recording. Nymphy is also wishing that Megami was around to help her write lyrics while seemingly struggling with the choreo, and Q also cannot sing a note. Well, for the first time, Plain is actually struggling even though she is deluded into thinking she's not. Now we get to our performance here, and our runway category is True Colors. And again, no one is safe from critiques, but everyone gets some All-Star 7 level positive critiques here, which I'm like, okay, something is sus about this judging. And it is revealed that, yes, this week there will be no elimination due to the theme of this episode's power of the vote. So Plain's potion and decision to give immunity to Nymphia Win turns out to be completely useless here. But we do learn that our top two very deservedly are Saphira Crystal and Morphine Love Dion, who stood out the most in the number and have the two best looks on the stage. They are then unfortunately forced to sing to Megan Trainor, which is like, why does like what does that have to do with voting? Like, can we just vote to turn the sound off? I mean, they do fine, but any other lip sync song next time, please. Saphira camps up the song in a cute way and secures her second win of the season over Morphine, who has to return back to the no-win club, but better than her sashaying away completely, you know? Ultimately, kind of a meh episode to pad the total number of episodes for the season, so it's whatever. Moving on, thank you, next. Returning back to the workroom at the start of the next episode, the drama is all surrounding Miss Plain and her decision to save Nymphia with her potion. As Plain explains, her goal was maybe if Nymphia is saved from the bottom, then perhaps someone else, like Dawn or Q, will end up taking her spot. If only the immunity mattered, Plain. To counter her point, though, the queens wonder if perhaps Plain should have used the potion on herself, as I think it was kind of implied had there been a bottom two, it likely could have included Plain, but Plain refuses to admit she was actually overpowered by Nymphia, choosing to overdose on her delusions instead. This leads to a shade-off between Dawn and Plain as they take turns playfully insulting each other, but seems like Plain could finally be starting to feel the pressure of the competition after being the boss bitch for so long. In this week's mini challenge, the queens vote to assign superlatives to the other contestants or themselves. If the queens vote with the majority, they earn $100. Some of the highlights include Nymphia as the most passive aggressive, Morphine most likely not to know what passive aggressive means and most likely to blame the edit, Dawn as the gassiest, Plain Jane as the most likely to block online, the most likely to blow her grand prize on latex breastplates, and the most delusional. Saphira gets all of the positive answers, like most trusted, and she gets the most answers overall, so Saphira wins. In addition to the $900, Saphira also wins an additional $2,500 for a total of $3,400. Not bad for spilling the tea, y'all. I do this every week. Where's my $3,400? Anyway, for this week's Maxi Challenge, the queens will need to write and deliver a drag awareness employee seminar that is meant to be their version of the comedy challenge. There are definitely a lot of moving parts to this challenge that require the teams to be in sync and not step over each other, so the group of three already seems like a difficult place to possibly stand out. Dawn is also struggling to find any sort of chemistry with Maya, so it seems kind of going into things Plain and Q could be the team to beat, especially after Q has a very heartfelt moment where she reveals she is HIV positive, and with the fan base being forever one to focus on the wrong thing, there ends up being a lot of random hate towards Plain for some reason because her reaction is.
Well, kudos for saying that, for spilling.
I mean, Plain Jane is the gift that keeps on giving and memeing, and I love it. And I'm fully expecting this gift to live on in my repertoire of like it's literally on my favorites list at this moment. Looking at you, Broloff. Like we are so good, so good. Love this moment. Anyways, we get to the challenge, and again, no one safe from critiques. Our tops this week are Plain Jane and Q for their Do You Know drag history. Lane and Q open the show and set the tone for the night with a very fun performance. They open with the goofy presentation jokes of look at these slides and clips with pictures of various slides and hair clips, which is so dumb but so hilarious and probably overused. But whatever, great office joke that hasn't been on the show yet, so good job. They basically go through the events of the past, like saying Abraham Lincoln was actually a drag queen named Abraham Stinkin, and Benjamin Franklin as BJ Bottoms is the first queen to actually have her pussy be set on fire by the lightning rod, while Chenille Armstrong was the first drag queen astronomer to set foot on the moon. Like, apparently, the Big Tuck was actually what caused the creation of the universe, not the Big Bang. They do really well, but I think the judges are right that they are literally playing the same character and probably could have done slightly better if they decided to separate themselves from each other just a little slightly. Also, in the top this week, at least half in the top, is our group of three featuring Nymphia, Saphira, and Morphine in Are You a Drag Queen? Now, our group of three comes out on stage, and I think everyone is right that the larger group will be harder to stand out in, but right away Saphira separates herself from the group, sort of by becoming the Beyonce of this trio, placed directly in the middle and starting the entire presentation off by making everyone stand up, which immediately changes the energy in the room. Although she fumbles over her words once or twice, Saphira continues on like a true professional and has some pretty funny jokes. Nymphia chooses to present a character who speaks in a more traditional Taiwanese tone, which sort of gives Manila Luzon flashbacks as the judges feel uncomfortable laughing at her, but I think an important point is made here by her presentation that just because she's using things that are slightly more stereotypical to get a laugh, that we cannot forget that these linguistics are sounds of real people who do talk like this, and representation for everyone matters. So it's important to get over the discomfort and laughing, especially when Nymphia is clearly doing it for comedic purposes. However, Morphine, ooh, it seems like she's just not as cohesive with the group as much as the others, and there's a moment where it seems like Morphine's nerves get the best of her, and she flubs, but decides to call attention to it, which the judges read her for. So while the other two are in the top, Morphine ends up in the bottom with our other group, Dawn and Maya, who do drag in the workplace. Like, I get why though, because where is the chemistry between these two? Like, this team is definitely the most doomed just from the start. As they an okay beginning as Dawn acts like the main host. Well, I'm not sure who Maya is supposed to be here, really, other than a girl who runs in and drops her cards at the start of the meeting. I mean, is she's supposed to be unprepared? Like, she's supposed to be too drunk that she came in from a lunch or whatever? Like, I don't see the direction here nor the synergy as things fall apart quickly. Maya reads from her cards far too often, and even with the words right in front of her, she continues to stutter, which, girl, I get, because I'm gonna have to make cuts to my shit all the time, but, like, this is a hosting challenge, and you need to be able to be flawless on the first take when it matters. Dawn is fine, but a lot of her jokes just aren't landing super well in comparison to the other groups, so we're collectively kind of cringing from start to finish. Also, side note, can we laugh at Maya's look literally being copied from a Google search AI art image of DragCon 1980s, which is the runway theme for this week, which doesn't feel like should exist, but it totally does. Like, I think season 1 of Drag Race was filmed in a Vaseline filter, and season 16 we're getting AI replications. Like, I cannot with this time travel rule. What is this business? However, when we return to the main stage for the results, I think I was fully expecting a dual plain Jane Q win. Instead, we learn that our tops are Nymphia and Saphira, with Saphira winning her second challenge win in a row and her third challenge win overall. Q decides to give her best Jan impression as she is not pleased with the results as she and Plain are called safe. Although she is in the bottom 3, Dawn escapes elimination for being the best out of those remaining, meaning we get a bottom 2 set up from the start of last week's episode as Maya, Amon, LePage, and Morphine Love Dion are but are set up to face off to Dim the Lights by Donna Summer. Now, the Battle of Miami is officially on as our two LipSync heavyweights go for a match that ends up being toe to toe or heel to heel from start to finish. Maya starts things out with a hilarious move to cover Morphine with her cape, which while she was doing a backband, and I think I read somewhere on Twitter that there was outrage because they're like, "Oh my God, you could have killed Morphine, Maya," and I'm like, "Okay, y'all are so dramatic." Morphine is outraged after this, whipping the cape right off of her and countering by chucking her silicone boobie at Maya. It's a back and forth match here with Maya flipping and Morphine doing the longest splits ever on the Drag Race stage. Just a great battle to the end. And when the dust settles, Rue declares Morphe Love Dion the winner, slaying this season's lip sync assassin and finally putting the Queen of Flips to rest. Gotta say, Maya Iman LePage really grew on me during the course of the season, as I feel like in any other cast she could have gotten lost in the sauce, but I'm glad Maya really seemed to come out of her shell during the show, and hopefully she'll be able to use everything she had learned here to find success outside of the show. Our 12th episode begins as we get Q's reaction as she is not happy with the results and is very honest with her opinion that Saphira didn't deserve it. Dawn calls Q a sore loser, and I kind of would have to agree she's basically Lucy LaDuca without any of the charm kind of at this point, which I definitely am missing from Q because she is so talented, but I'm just kind of like, girl, you need to like be a little bit more humble when you lose. You do well, but like sometimes if someone else gets the win over you, kind of just need to suck it back and not, be that honest with your opinion. But, I get it. It's just, she's still young, so we all have places to go. And she is very talented again. Not trying to shit on you, Q, but, like, girl, I have to say something. Now we get our mini challenge for the episode as we get a visit from Anastasia Cosmetics Norvina, who brings along with her yet another welcoming appearance from the pit crew for this episode. To which, let's just leave this slide here for a moment. Yes. Okay, now inspired by Tammy Faye Baker, this week's mini challenge requires the queens to imprint a full beat of makeup onto a t-shirt being worn by a member of the pit crew, but they are only allowed to use their face. Q's actually turned out the best to me, so I was rather gooped and gagged when they decided to give the win to Plain, which is clearly an effort to just keep triggering Q. Now, for this week's Maxi Challenge, we get a challenge inspired by the All-Star Room Design Challenge, as the queens must design and present a bathroom for the fictitious design show Bathroom Hunties. There's a lot of fun drama during the creation process, including a paint war between the queens as they playfully sabotage each other. Now, this week's our tops very clearly are Plain Jane and Saphira for their Booty Lickers Speakeasy, which is featuring a 1920s prohibition theme. Like, in short, they have the best chemistry here, and it's just very obvious that they're the tops this week. But will it be a team win or a solo win? Meanwhile, for the other two groups of Morphine and Q, who do a devil-inspired hell-themed concept for their Naughty Potty, and Dawn and Nymphia doing the Art Museum, a bathroom that also doubles as a fine art museum, it seems like both Q and Nymphia actually outshine their partners, Morphine and Dawn, but it seems like Dawn is given a little more grace as Nymphia was seen as a little out of control, going off on long tangents, making it difficult for Dawn to find a place to jump in at. But when the results are revealed, Rue announces that both Plain Jane and Saphira are the winners, with Saphira getting her fourth win overall and third win in a row now. Like, is there any question at this point who our front runner anymore in this late game is? Like, this end game run from Saphira is extremely impressive, given how close the last few weeks have been. But let's not take away from Plain's moment, as this is her third win overall, and she's still in the running just as much as Saphira is, and just as much as I would say some other queens are as well. But, this end game run from Saphira is insane. Now, when it comes to the bottoms, they're not being judged in teams, as we learned that both Nymphia and Q are safe, as it seems like the judges value their standout performances more so than Dawn and Morphine Love Dion, who end up overshadowed. And for the third episode in a row, we will get to watch Morphine in a lip sync, as Dawn and Morphine have to go to Body by Megan Thee Stallion. And when this song choice comes up for the lip sync, literally in the first 2 seconds, I'm like, is there really any question here? Like, why couldn't this been the song last week for the Battle of Miami? Just saying. Like, Dawn lost the moment this song started to play. Like, she still tries. I give her that. But does anybody even pay attention to Dawn on this one when you have the BBL queen here with the real body? Like, I'm glad. I was kind of getting over to the elf ears, though, and I was just kind of clear that Dawn isn't strong enough in the rest of as the rest of the season's cast. She needs a little bit more time to bake, I think, as dusk now falls over the Drag Race stage, with the finale looming just over the horizon. We return to the workroom moments after Morphine has Thanos snapped Dawn out of the competition, as the girls congratulate our double winners while noting that Saphira has gotten 3 wins in a row. while Plain is feeling pretty unstoppable herself. They're all really strong, but someone has got to be eliminated in order for there to be a top four, so the next morning they're joined by the new RuPaul's Drag Race Monopoly, purchased wherever fine Monopoly games are sold. And I'd like a free one for that sponsorship there, so please DM me. Now for this week's Maxi Challenge, it is the Makeover Challenge, and this week it's 5 of the dancers from the Drag Race Vegas live show, while also doing a choreographed dance the dancers teach them on the main stage, which I've actually seen the Vegas show myself, and I've got to say it is such a great idea. I love this concept. Plus, any excuse to have shirtless menses on the screen, so we'll just leave the screen cap up a little longer. Yes. Okay. Now, in order to get the pairs, they'll pick a colored ball out of a box and they'll be paired with the corresponding dancer who will dramatically rip off their pants to reveal the same color undies. Q draws yellow, upsetting Nymphia but also getting Sebastian. Morphine gets orange, and her witch powers get her Miguel, who is definitely the most manly out of the group, but also, hey Miguel, call me. Nymphia is repulsed when she draws the purple ball, but she's okay when it turns out that it meant that she's partnered with Jonathan. Saphira and Plain draw the last 2 balls at the same time, pairing Saphira's red ball with Mark and Plain's blue ball with Nick. The rest of the challenge really gives us some time for the dancers to come out of their shells. We get to know them better, and there's some really nice coming out stories from the dancers. There's also a very competitive energy amongst them, and they all want to do their best, so it's cool to see them really get into it. There's a moment where Nymphia and Morphine give the boys a tucking tutorial. I'm like, oh Lord, this is why I could never do drags. My good could not be put up in that kind of drama or stress. Like, if I did this, I'm going full on Venus Canada Drag Race 4 here. I'm not tucking ever. There is really not that much drama outside of Saphira here, whose initial idea is to do a geode storyline with some dresses that she already brought with her, but she soon realizes that she has to scrap it to come up with something else at the last minute because she can't really dance in it, which is almost like, oof, I'd almost just pull a cue and pretend to do the monster or like something else with less rhythm, rather than change everything at the last minute just to focus on the dance portion of the challenge, which seemed to be a little bit more of an afterthought anyways when it came to the challenge. So this week's critiques skew rather positive, with our tops and bottoms being pretty obvious since there are only 3 rather strong concepts and 2 that we have some concerns about. Our tops are Q and Luna, aka Sebastian, as they go for a monstrous storyline with thriller moves, and I'm not really into it to be honest, but I also know that I'm slightly judgmental of Q, so I'm going to check my bias here and give her credit because she's clearly not a bottom here. Nymphia and Juanita, aka Jonathan, also go for a yellow and lilac bird storyline, and wow, these outfits are really nice, and Jonathan is really into the performance, and T.S. Eliot is kind of rude saying that Nymphia shouldn't have worn yellow, but it's literally her thing, just let her do it and find something else to judge her on, girl, like, come on. Finally, we have Plain and Lazy Susan, aka Nick, who gets the best drag name, and literally they send Rue into a laughing fit after announcing the name to her. And while they're literally wearing the same outfit, which I do have some opinion on, it does feel like Lazy Susan is the most into this and is just giving this RBF the entire time. I don't think it's the biggest transformation I've ever seen, but I think they are the most cohesive pair for sure and the most electric to watch. Now our bottoms are Morphine and Latina, aka Miguel, as they go for this sexy Latina look, and during their dance, Latina kind of messes up her skirt reveal, but she still goes with it, so it's nice to see her still stick with it. But Miguel is the most masculine, and it feels like Morphine didn't really try to hide her figure at all, so it kind of gives a little bodybuilder here. Saphira and Shakira Cristal, aka Mark, are also in the bottom. Saphira says they're showgirl fantasies, but really they're both just orange, and that's kind of it. And Saphira is aware of it, and I kind of wish they went with the other gowns and just tried to find a dance that worked. Ultimately, Plain Jane is dubbed the winner. Nymphia and Q are safe, as Morphine Love Dion is up for yet another lip sync against our frontrunner up to this point, Saphira Cristal. They will be performing Miss Me More by Kelsey Ballerini in front of Kelsey Ballerini. And I've never heard of this song before, I'll be real, I don't really listen to country, but it was fine. Morphine notices that Saphira is starting out slow, so Morphine tries to give a more energetic performance, but I actually think Saphira's energy here is right because the song gives more lip sync emotional energy than it gives tricks and flips, so Saphira's emotiveness really serves her well here. Unfortunately, third time is not the charm for Miss Morphine Love Dion, as she is eliminated from the season in 5th place, which I think is fair. Morphine is strong, but I think the other four queens have just a lot more of an idea of themselves as drag queens than Morphine does at the moment. Morphine is just about her BBL kind of to some degree, and I hope she realizes that after seeing herself back on TV this season, the fact that this Final Four literally all have multiple wins here, that Morphine hasn't really got one yet, but she has so much space for growth. So this does feel like her stopping point, but I would love to see Morphine Love Dion in a future season. She is such a fantastic narrator and just overall just it's so charming to watch. And I love the fact that she is not afraid to call a bitch on some shit or speak her mind. So I do love Miss Morphine here and want to show her some love. So unfortunate she goes out here, but this top four is rather just amazing here. So I can't really talk too much about it. And then there were four, and we stand here now with a very strong group, as Plain Jane and Saphira have 4 wins, and Nymphia and Q are still in it with 2 wins. However, Rue notes things aren't what we're used to when she notes that this is the semi-finals. We get some shade going on between Plain and Q as well, which seems interesting, like we're getting this storyline now at this point that they're friendly rivals. Okay, now for their next mini challenge, it's time to play kiddie pool karaoke, and the queens are doing half swimsuit drag and have to do a lip sync with their face submerged underwater. Nymphia doesn't know any of the words to the song, whereas Saphira uses her large breastplate, which again, where did this come from, to her advantage to win the challenge. Now, for the final maxi challenge of the season, the queens will have to write stories about their own lives, pose for the cover shoot, and then sell it in an interview podcast with Matt Rogers, which is a challenge all about writing, which Nymphia is already hating because she was just hoping for anything other than a final challenge involving writing. It's an interesting challenge for the top four because it's something that can kind of prepare them for their career outside of the world, so I do enjoy that part. Plus, I do really enjoy coaching the girls on their cover because it gave me all the ANTM teas that I've been missing for years here. Now, the runway category is Fandango, a fan-inspired outfit, and our tops for the week are Saphira Crystal, with her memoir, Slewfoot, Embracing All of Me. Saphira feels like the most personable out of the top four, so her just having a conversation with Matt Rogers seemed like things came very easy for her. But I think where Saphira won is where she tied things back to her embracing Rue's nickname of Sleuthfoot for her as just a way to embrace every part of herself. The look is a little though, but it's clear that Saphira is obviously here in the right element, so we got to give Saphira her props. Nymphia Wind is also in the top after being so nervous about this whole challenge, and although she hates writing, she quickly realizes it's about being herself than it is about the actual writing of the book, which she titles Breaking Wind: The Art of Letting Go. She realizes the real challenge is the podcast and having a good story, and Nymphia really gets the most personal out of all the queens. She really touches on her insecurity with looking in the mirror as a boy and doing drag, really helped her come out of her shell. And this story is so relatable, especially as a person of color. So, as far as the most unexpected, Nymphia definitely feels like she gave a performance that none of the judges really expected her to give, as she is the most reserved. So, proud to see another side of Nymphia tonight outside the bananas. Now, obviously, if you're not in the top, you're in the bottom. So our bottom two are our now new rivals, Plain and Q. Q's memoir, Alphabet Soup, Savor Every Bite, definitely gets a little bit of a disconnect for me as well as the judges. Like, I get it, but compared to the other four, the judges definitely nitpick her title and cover the most and come up with some way better alternatives than what she came up with. Her interview is very good though. She discusses her very humble beginnings to where she is now, but there are so few girls left. The Q is in the bottom, really just kind of based on the fact that her presentation was just not as cohesive as the top two. Plain Jane also finds herself in the bottom, taking a less serious route for her memoirs, Plane Crash, How I Walked Away from Disaster, which doesn't really tie into any part of this whatsoever. She decides to show off her more horrid and hateful side, but Ruse, again, is trying to make this, I think, a more serious challenge, so there feels a little bit more of a disconnect during the photo shoot as well, and during her interview where she takes like 3 minutes to go off on the eliminated girls like Amanda, who haven't even been around for weeks now, so I get where they say this whole challenge. I don't feel like I learned anything new about Fane here, so not surprised at all when we get to our results, and Nymphia Wind is declared our winner and gets her 3rd win heading into the finale, while Saphira is declared safe, while Miss Plain Jane and Q face off to Better Be Good to Me by Tina Turner, which kind of a choice for a song like this would be very, very hard to lip sync to, and I'm not surprised here at all that Plain Jane ends up taking Q out of this because she knows the words and she emotes very well here. So ultimately, when we have our first top three in almost 4 years, Miss Q unfortunately will be the one who is eliminated here in fourth place. And I'll be real, I went back and forth on Miss Q so much this whole season. She is so talented as a seamstress and has some of the most stunning looks that have ever hit the main stage this season. I pegged her absolutely as top four from the start. Although I did kind of go back and forth, she kind of had moments where she kind of gets a little stank when it comes to taking critiques, and that kind of turned me off a little bit here this season. So nobody's perfect, and a lot of this episode and this season has been about embracing your flaws and your negatives as your strengths. So I fully expect Q to have a lot of growth following this season to the point where she really could be a future contender in an all-star season once I think she's able to fully embrace her highs and lows, because Q has an amazing story and is a great talent. But let's also hope for some dancing lessons, maybe too. Now, normally at this point in episode 15, we would be heading into a typical reunion episode, but this season Mamoru is shaking shit up, and instead we end up with a lip sync Lalaparuza Smackdown Reunited, where our 11 eliminated queens face off in 9 lip syncs for the title of She Already Done Had Hers Is, and a cash prize of $50,000. Now, some highlights as they're getting ready for the lip sync battle are Mirage hoping to show that she knows the words to a lip sync, while Maya is kind of the favorite overall, despite saying she gave 65% in her lip sync against Morphine, although I don't really see that. She says she is ready for revenge, while Megami and Plasma are also ready for revenge on Maya, even though Maya is confident about her abilities and thinks Megami personally is the worst lip syncer of tonight's competitors. Now we get to the main stage, and oh my god, where are we? Did they just randomly debut the new main stage in the middle of the season for this finale? I heard they came back about 2 months afterwards to film this, so it's possible they could have renovated this. Like, I'm kind of here for it. Like, the video screen background is pretty smart since it's very Big Brother US-esque, and they could kind of change it up easier now, but ooh, finally them putting in some of the budget that they could probably host their own finales now instead of renting out theaters. Although I will miss the grandness of the theater finales. It's probably for them to try to attempt to limit spoilers, but let's be real. The spoilers got out anyway, although I did not heed them. Now, they bring out our season's cast one by one, ending with our 3 finalists who are literally on stage for like a minute before they go to the back to watch the rest of the show. Like, it's kind of hilarious to me that they make them do an entire look just to be on the stage for 2 seconds, but hey, at least they could wear it through all of Top 2, so sure. Now, we get our convoluted bracket system this season, which is unnecessarily complicated, but okay, Mamoru, whatever. I'm just going to go through the lip syncs one by one because the rest is just too high for my pay grade here. Now, Bruno is picking the balls, so let's just go to him for a moment while we break things down, because whoever's ball Bruno picks at the start of each round will get to pick their competitor, while the person picked will get to select one of the 8 songs that Mamoru has selected for them tonight. Now, our first round is our initial matchups, where every queen will have to do at least one lip sync in order to move on. Now, Dawn's ball gets picked first out of everyone. I do think she has valid reasoning for picking a mandatory meeting for this first lip sync, even though for me personally, I would have picked Q. But Amanda decides she wants to have her girl group moment, which I totally felt, especially after being instantly drawn to Danity Kane when I saw the list of songs. So Amanda gets her moment here as they do Damaged by Danity Kane, and there really is no contest here. I'm not really sure what Dawn is doing. Like, she's doing something, but I'm not really sure what that is. I think Dawn kind of knows she may not be the strongest traditional lip syncer, and it makes me wonder if she kind of picked Amanda, so if she lost, at least her friend could move on or something. Like, Amanda and Dawn were close, right? Like, it's been so long since the early season, but yeah, mandatory meeting rightfully gets her name called in victory for the first time this season for anything competition related, and we're really standing for how this reunited lip sync battle is going to be a great natural end to these queen storylines, as we're getting a lot of redemptions right off the bat. Dawn is eliminated, and thus will join the top 3 to watch the rest of the show as we get to our next lip sync of the night. So when Q's ball is picked next, she picks Megami, and I'll be honest, my initial instinct was to go to the bathroom now, because I was like, this is probably going to be the most lip sync of the night, because these two haven't really been the most electric performers today, although Megami should get props for her girl good performance. I do think it was justified going into this, though, that she could be seen as one of the weaker performances, but wow, 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 did Megami turn this one out. I feel like Megami has very specific interests, and when they manage to align with what's going on with what she stands out with, like she just does so well. It seems like Megami really knew and connected this song prior to the show, and this is like a new Megami. Like I didn't even remember Q was there because Megami was just doing so much more exciting things and was just so much more fun to watch. She definitely did this Janet song justice and then some. Megami moves on, and unshocked here, Q is eliminated. Our next matchup is set as Morphine's ball is picked as she picks Geneva Carr to go up against. I thought it was a smart choice for Geneva to pick Million Dollar Baby, mainly because her outfit really matched the song, but when she immediately reveals to a catsuit at a random point in the song, I knew it was over because Morphine is just so deliberate with her timing. So Geneva kind of loses me after this because she has nothing else to reveal to. Whereas Morphine not only gives us the clothing reveal, but she also has the wig reveal that steals the victory from me. I mean, Geneva even she pulls a Hanaconda at the end here and just stares and points at Morphine in defeat. So no one is surprised as Morphine moves on to the winner's box and sends Geneva back to the workroom as she officially completes her mission of lip syncing each and every episode she's on the show. Now, Bruno picks Mirage's ball next, and I'm on pins and needles because we all know how big this lip sync moment is for her. Also, a pretty big moment for her competitor, Hershey, since she is a first boot, and I'm like, okay, this is actually a real good battle for redemption right now. Hershey picks alone, and immediately we're like, does she know the Nikki rap, Mirage? What are you going to do? Well, thankfully, Mirage does know the lyrics this time, and they both give a really good performance. Hershey relies a lot more on comedy, while Mirage is using her kicks and flips and clacks, and this is really the lip sync I knew Mirage was capable of because this was stunting. On the other hand, although Hershey is eliminated here, I'm still surprised Hershey is a first boot because she's honestly very strong and so much fun, and she made me cackle so hard when she waited for Mirage to do her back bend before she walks in front of her. But sadly, Hershey is eliminated in the first round here, allowing Mirage to move on. So for our final lip sync of the first round, we learned that our leftover trio will be competing in a three-way lip sync where only one of them will move on. But for defeating two opponents, they will receive a bye into the semifinal round. Maya's ball gets picked, and she selects Milkshake. And immediately, I'm looking at Plasma like, okay, just go ahead and walk away now. But dare I say, my eyes were on Plasma the whole time. I mean, Maya was doing her Queen of Flips thing, but oh my god, Plasma was like equal parts like hilarious yet sexy and kind of completely unexpected. Like she was going hard. Like Maya has kind of given me everything that I expected her, as she's already kind of lip synced so much to this point, whereas Plasma caught me off guard here as she was doing everything I thought she was gonna be the winner here. Tsunami was also there. She kind of felt like she just got in the way of Plasma and Maya, just kind of spinning around the stage here. I was surprised here that Rue did not recognize Plasma. I was not shocked that they gave the win to Maya, and because she has more drama and storylines invested at stake here than Plasma does. And I doubt Plasma at the end of the day probably would have beat our eventual finalists, so that's fine. Plasma is just the most Rob Garthis in the history of the show, especially the season. That's all. And let's not forget, Tsunami was there too. So we're officially at round two of our lip sync Smackdown, and Maya, remember, gets to skip the next lip sync as she beat two competitors, meaning that Amanda, Megami, Mirage, and Morphine will be split into two battles to determine who will meet with Maya in the semifinals round. Amanda's ball is picked, meaning she will compete in the first matchup and decide her competitor, deciding to pick Megami, who selects the Shoop Shoop song by Cher, which tracks. I would fully expect the song to be in Megami's wheelhouse of randomness, and no surprise, as it is, as she totally mops the floor with Amanda here. Amanda tries to do the little Cher here and there, but it looks real bad compared to Megami's impression, which is pretty spot on. Then there's this huge bridge portion where Megami seals the deal for me, where she basically, special kisses her hand and over the musical interlude here, and I think this is the point where she definitely wins here. Megami is turning it out tonight, which is so unexpected, but she's proving that you can't count anybody out here. Even the Eeyore of Drag, as she defeats Amanda, moves on to the next round. And I feel like that's the theme of this season is don't count anybody out. It does not matter if someone goes home first or they go home, in fourth place, or they're one of the finalists. Like all these queens could possibly be on the same level any given Sunday. And I'm kind of here for that because it's a definitely different message than we get from a lot of other seasons. And I think it is very empowering, being that this is the season of power. Now, we do move on to our second lip sync of the round, as Mirage and Morphine have no choice to go against each other, as Morphine's ball is picked, meaning she gets the chance to determine not only which song she and Mirage will do this round, but which song Maya will have to do next round, since there are only two songs left. pick from. In a very strategic choice, she decides to take Donna Summer's This Time I Know It's For Real versus the other song, which is a much more tempo song, meaning Mirage can't really do her kicks and tricks like she normally would here. And Maya will have to do a upbeat song that is completely outside of her genre here. Now, although this doesn't stop Morphine at all, because she starts slow and sensual and really goes all out at the end here. Like Mirage decides to do something like in the last 5 seconds here to try to keep up with Morphine, but it's like by the time Morphine has already sealed her victory at this point, and it's like Mirage, why did you go so slow? But you know what? Mirage already had her redemption at this point, and I think the right queen moved on to the semifinals here. So we are now at round 3 in our semifinals, leaving Megami, Morphine, and Maya, and we learned that 2 will be lip syncing here, and whoever's ball is chosen will select their opponent, while the other not selected will move on automatically to the finals. With 2 of the best lip syncers in the competition, Megami's ball is picked and has to decide her choice here. Deciding now is the time for revenge, picking to go up against Maya. The girls in the workroom think this is about to be a massacre in Maya's favor, but Don thinks Megami is pissed off and has something to prove tonight, which, oh my god, does Megami ever, because for the third time tonight, she pulls out another unique lip sync to another very random song choice, which is We Got the Beat by the Go-Go's. I think this may be Maya's kryptonite because she was just not embodying the genre of this song like she normally would, whereas Megami is very 70s with her attitude and movements, and she just fits the fun nature of the song so much better, and it's something I never thought I would say. Megami gets her revenge and slays the most feared lip syncer in the competition, and even Maya is shocked when she's told that she has not made the finals tonight. So, this is it. Megami versus Morphine in our final round, and we learn it's gonna make you sweat. Everybody dance now. I C plus C Music Factory. Or like the final song, which is so Space Jam of you, Mamaru. I love how Nymphia started out by saying this felt like we were watching a sporting event, and then this is a song that we're ending with, right? Like, I'm really surprised we didn't get We Will Rock You at this point now. But anyway, this song could really go a lot of ways because there are elements about it that are very dance, but it's also been used so much in mainstream media that you could kind of go the comedy route as well. And wow, do both these queens go in 2 different directions and give each other a run for their money. Megami starts out really strong, pretending to do the rap with her hand puppet, which is kind of cheating, but also hilarious. Morphine starts to turn it up about midway through, breaking into a BBL shake, which shifts the energy into her favor as Megami starts to kind of run out of gags. It feels like Morphine senses this as well, going in for the kill with her splits and moves, where she just ends so strong it felt like Megami just kind of ran out of energy or ideas. In the end, despite a well fought battle between both finalists, Morphine Love Dion is named the queen who already done had hers, securing her first win on the show, which isn't a bad one because it nets her a cash prize of $50,000. And maybe even more well respected is the fact that Morphine will officially have the title of Lip Sync Assassin of the Season in a cast full of very strong performers, which, speaking of, we still have Nymphia, Plane, and Saphira to fight over in this finale next episode, which is like, this cast is so strong overall. How will we even decide between one of these 3 finalists? Well, I guess we're going to find out as we are heading into our finale. Now, heading into our grand finale, Saphira Crystal and Plain Jane both have 4 wins, but 1 bottom each, while Nymphia Win is the only queen not to be in the bottom, but she is down by 1 win at 3 wins. But honestly, it is a very even playing field, as this final 3 again is one of the strongest I have seen in recent memory. Now, this finale is very reminiscent of seasons like 7 and 8, which sees our finalists face off in one final individual show-stopping performance to an original number written for them. And I have to say that of the 3, I think Nymphia Wins, the Queen of Wind, is by far my favorite. Nymphia is just so electric on stage, and the wind pattern works so well with her garments. She's just so fun to watch and looks well while doing it, and is technically pretty proficient here. I would say Plain Jane's song Bodysuit seemed the most disconnected for me. Like I was expecting some sort of other bitch track here instead of a song about bodysuits. And it also kind of seemed that Plain Jane was disconnected herself here because it kind of seemed like she was maybe giving 70 to 80% of what I would expect for her. While Saphir Crystal's When I Learned to Love Me might have been my favorite song, and technical performance, but I really hated this orange look that Saphira decides to reveal into following the opera introduction of her number. But, when the dust settles, Saphira, Cristal, and Nymphia Wynn are named our finalists, and sadly, Plain Jane becomes our final queen, told to sashay away this season. For those of you who don't know, I was not a supporter of Plain Jane throughout her first 2 episodes, but I've got to say she quickly grew on me afterwards. Well, it could be seen as one of those that are purposely dramatic for the sake of TV. I do not mind a queen coming onto RuPaul's Drag Race, knowing that at the end of the day they are making a TV show, so sometimes drama and fun and cattiness is needed in order to make a great TV product. We got such a well-rounded view of every side of Plain Jane this season, and I hope she inspires queens to come on and spill the tea freely in future seasons. Now, in some segments throughout tonight's program, Cassandra Peterson, aka Elvira, is given a Lifetime Achievement Award. Last season's winner, Sasha Colby, returns to perform, looking so sexy as always, while outgoing Miss Congeniality, Malaysia Baby Doll Fox, announces our first tie in Miss Congeniality history as Saphira Cristal and Tsunami Muse are announced the winner. Now, to be honest, this was a little sus to me because for those of you who watched Espana All Stars, and as I mentioned in that podcast here, a very similar thing happened there where one of the 2 finalists are announced as Miss Congeniality prior to the final lip sync. And I'm kind of like, hold up, is that even a thing? You could possibly win the whole competition and be Miss Congeniality? Because I thought the whole idea of Miss Congeniality was to reward the losers for still competing fairly. So, though I was very Team Nymphia going into this finale, I was fully expecting frontrunner Saphira to dominate this last episode. Like, if we're gonna brain heart gut this, my heart Team Nymphia, but my brain and my gut were all on Team Saphira here because she had a very similar run to last year's Sasha Colby, as well as having the most wins overall. So the crown seemed destined to be hers until that moment. Now, everything makes sense as we find out here our final 2 will be returning to the main stage to lip sync one final time in their final lip sync, and gays around the world mutually orgasm out loud when last year's smash hit Padam Padam by Kylie Minogue is the final lip sync song. And I've got to say, although Saphira has some moments like revealing that she has some vampire fangs in her mouth, and she also does an outfit and a wig reveal, she does them at very strange times during the lip sync that are just not timed at all as well to the music. Meanwhile, on the other side of the stage, Nymphia Wind is just eating, or should I say sipping, because she's a giant cup of boba and reveals into a stunning balloon display underneath, and then it's just pure energy as she's running around the stage and kicking and flipping here. Like, going into other seasons, this final lip sync, it feels like it's usually just a formality, but this season, Nymphia came to say, no, RuPaul, this lip sync is going to matter today. So, when we are revealed our final winner, RuPaul crowns her 16th drag superstar as Miss Nymphia Wind. And yes, Team Banana prevails, and I am so happy that Nymphia becomes our first East Asian winner of the mainline franchise. Despite being soft-spoken, Nymphia's cultural take on typical showgirl drag really resonated so strongly that even if I'm full of the most cattiest girls in the history of the show, that this queen's yellowed at the top of her youngs. Okay, sorry, that was bad. But Nymphia easily had some of the most stunning looks of any Drag Race catalog to date, as well as having just the pure talent to make a captivating live performance. I'm so proud of her for accomplishing what she set out to do and making her home country of Taiwan proud, and for that the world is now caught in her tornado that I hope continues to blow for years to come. Overall, this was such a fantastic season with such a great cast. I'm just so happy to see the series kind of back to where it needs to be after a little bit of a rough patch coming out of the pandemic. Well, I still need more time to see where this season will officially rank among the most elite seasons because I do believe recency bias is a thing. I can easily say that you could expect to see RuPaul's Drag Race Season 16 finish very highly in our end of the year ranks. So, that's it. I know I'm such a positive mess in most of these episodes, but did you enjoy the season as much as I did? Because I really liked the season. And if you did or didn't, make sure to spill your tea in the comments below and like and subscribe to get even more content on 2024's hottest reality TV content. Till next time, this is Renegade signing out. Bye!
Well, kudos for saying that, for spilling. Like, seriously.